Good morning, everybody. This is Dust for Dust on Gaming, playing a little bit of Modern today. So, today we're going to start out with Jund, archetype I haven't played in a while. This particular list is Jadine Klomparens' list from SCG Charlotte. She took to a top 8 finish in a field full of Amulet Titan, Dredge, other big mana decks, and some control decks. So obviously this deck is not best positioned in a big mana format, but big mana formats don't tend to stick around very long because then the faster combo decks come out to play. But this is she's probably one of the bigger noted Jund players behind Reed Duke. So her lists are generally pretty solid. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Dark Confidant in Jund. I'm more a fan of Tireless Tracker, playing that on Jeff Hoogland, I guess. Not a fan of taking damage for my card advantage. But beyond that, you got a fairly stock Jund list. You've got Tarmogoyf, Scavenging Oozes, Dark Confidants, Bloodbraid Elves as your creature base, Leon the Veil, and then new additions, Assassin's Trophy to your Lightning Bolts, Fatal Pushes, Maelstrom Pulses, and K commands. So, and then you have your 4 Inquisition, 2 Thoughtseize, which has become pretty standard. And then one of them, Hail Spellbomb, both main deck, Graveyard Hate, also helps grow your Tarmogoyfs, getting an artifact into the graveyard. Beyond that, I mean, this is Jund. You've got Raging Ravines. She does not run Treetop Village. Some lists, like Reed Dukes, tend to run some number of Treetop Villages as well. But, I mean, overall, Jund's a fairly solid deck. Always hovered around close to being good in Modern. If you like playing fair, interactive mid-range decks. Sideboard's a smattering of stuff. Dredge running around. You've got a bunch of Grafdigger's Cages, Nihil Spellbomb, Surgical Extractions to go with your main deck Nihil Spellbomb. Duress and Collective Brutality for where you need to interact with your opponent's hand more. Kalidas for the mid-range and the burn matchups. Fatal Push when you need more spot removal. A couple Anger of the Gods against the various Swarm decks. Fulminator Mages against the big mana decks. And Kitchen Finks to pair with your Collective Brutality against decks like Burn and decks you need to gain a little bit more life. So, it's pretty much the deck. Jund is Jund, and it does Jund things. So, if you're not familiar with Jund, Jund's basically the used to be at one point the premier mid-range archetype in Modern, back before the bannings of originally Bloodbraid Elf, and then eventually Deathrat Shaman. And then, as the format's gotten faster and a little bit less interactive, Jund's made surges at points with the reintroduction of Bloodbraid Elf and, to a certain extent, Assassin's Trophy, but the deck is currently one of the top played decks, but doesn't usually remain there for an extremely long time. Awkward hand. So we're on the plate, and we have a bunch of green cards in our hand. We do have Bolt and Liliana. How many green sources do we run in the deck? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15, 17? I think we can risk it. It's definitely a hand that could punish us, but I think we go ahead and risk this hand. Looks like we'll be up against Burn, too. Really would be nice to draw a green source here. Now I might just die to lack of mana, period. I'm going to concede there both to save the fact that we're on Jund and the fact that we don't have enough interactive nonsense for what they have going on. Kept a bit of a greedy hand, got punished. Let's get these Dark Confidants out of our deck. Let's get these Thought Seizes out of our deck. Some argument for Anger of the Gods, but I don't think that's really where we want to be in this matchup. So one thing about Modern is you get punished so much more for stumbling, even than in Standard. In Standard, there's certain decks that can, you know, punish you a little bit for stumbling, but in Modern, it's far, far worse. Yeah, I think I like this. Like, we would have had, you know, access to green mana. What is it with these one-landers, man? Oh, sometimes Jan Shavicki drive me nuts. Guess we keep this hand. Got to scry that to the bottom. It's Jadine Klomparens' Jund list from SCG Charlotte. I'm not sure what nationality she is. Question is, what do I take here? Our hand is admittedly pretty terrible for a burn deck. That said, our mana situation and lack of threats may not be able to leverage this anyway. I guess we take Skull. I guess we take Lavamancer here. Yeah, and we don't necessarily have a way to answer it, so kind of inclines me to take the Lavamancer there. That said, when we draw a Lightning Bolt. I may be close to a burn expert, but I'm definitely no Jund expert. I do know if your opponent stumbles, you're very happy to be a burn player, and right now we've been stumbling a lot. We haven't been drawing green mana, and we've been drawing ugh, this is so bad. Really need to draw like a Tarmogoyf. It's pretty much got to be Tarmogoyf. Anything else will just get hit by a bolt effect. Gonna pitch this Inquisition, because anything we could take, they're just gonna end up pitching here. Suppose it's possible we could have gotten something with that Inquisition there if we had played the Inquisition first. Deal. So our Liliana just gained us effectively like 9 life. Now if we can only kind of draw a threat here. It could be, but since we're at so high a life total, that Liliana was starting to threaten their, Liliana in some ways was starting to threaten their ability to, hold cards in their hand long enough to kill us. Just kind of firing this off here, because we're not really playing a long grindy game against Burn. Gotta start getting in damage. And this way, if we top deck a land, we can start swinging with Raging Ravine. Yeah, their hand was Searing Blaze. Awkward situation. Still think we gotta do it. Admittedly, our opponent kept a pretty terrible hand there. What's up, Ronald? How you doing? Yeah, Junda's fun. We've been having some issues drawing some mana and green mana in the first couple games so far. Yeah, Mortal Sun's definitely been picking up play, Janshevik. I mean, if you watch Sideboard's video, that's kind of self-apparent. Is it a mythic or is it a rare? Yeah, that's probably why it's super expensive. It's kind of like a card like Carnage Tyrant that shouldn't be all that expensive, but is simply because it's a mythic. I mean, Inquisition or Bolt and Tarmogoyf, I mean, I really can't ask for too much else, right? Looks like it's gonna be Bolt into... That was dumb. Could have just fatal push this turn. Could have just fatal push or Inquisition instead of taking 2 unnecessary damage. Sphinx is a good one. Unfortunately, the way my mana sets up, I can't really... Actually, I should probably just push this. Save the bolts for pushing damage later. I have no idea why my opponent's fetching in response to this, but whatever. They're going to try to Boros Charm to save it? That seems very ambitious. Sure. Seems very ambitious. Fatal Push is a little unfortunate here. We really wanted to draw green source. I think the only time I've ever used Boros Charm is usually to counter a sweeper, or in a situation where like I'm protecting an Eidolon and I can guarantee that Eidolon's going to deal 4 damage. Like I've used that in a similar situation to what my opponent just did, but it was like counter your removal spell. So you're taking 2 off of that, and then you're taking 2 during the combat step, and then you're probably taking another 2 to deal with it. So, but the upside on Goblin God's so much lower. You know, I guess they were limited, but I don't know. That opponent was not using optimal plays. I'll be generous and say that. That said, I mean, we did pick up a win despite kind of stumbling a little bit, so. Alright, let's hop back into the play queue here. Playing a little bit of Jun this morning. Then after this, we'll probably hop into some Burn. It's kind of funny, I usually should flip this. I should usually play like Burn first. He's definitely one of the people that have been here for a while. Him, Space Marine, War Dog, Foz. These hands, man. I think we keep it, but this hand's a little... Playing the Jund Mirror? That'd be kind of rough. No, Ronald, I didn't buy it. I use Mana Traders, man. They're down in part because of Arena and in part because standard format's good. No, I use Mana Traders to borrow cards on Magic Online. Could be up against Death Shadow here. Sultai Shadow or just Sultai period. Mana traders, yeah. Traders, not triggers. It depends, honestly. Like if you're like me in sideboard and you're kind of grinding your arena cards, there's actually, I have to look into it, but there's actually an add-on, there's actually an add-on that allows you to, so what's more important here? Establishing Liliana or establishing one of my creatures? So I don't think I need double green. I'm just going to pitch Twilight Mire here. There's an add-on through Arena that allows you to, for the person to be able to read like every card on the Arena screen. Jeff Hoogland's been talking about it. I haven't looked into it yet because I don't stream enough of Arena to really justify throwing another add-on onto the computer right now. But it's certainly something to look into as I transition to playing more Arena for Standard. Which that'll be down the line because I'm not really buying the cards on Arena. I'm just kind of grinding. Since they pretty much announced they're not going to do any more account wipes. I don't know if we're just up against Sultai or if we're up against like Sultai Shadow here. Wouldn't be surprised if our opponent like Snapcasters Abrupt Decay here. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Alright, I mean we drew a green source here, so I think I'm just gonna play Tarmogoyf. Just because I don't want to expose Scavenging Ooze without the ability to at least eat something out of our opponent's graveyard. Opponent's probably going to have a slight advantage because they have access to... This sucks. This feels like a Delve threat. With what, Stubborn Denial backup? Nope, just a Fatal Push. Bloodbraid Elf would be kind of ideal here. That's a pretty good card too. Question is, what card am I playing around in their deck? Stubborn Denial, maybe? Ah. Good old Thoughtseize. card was a land. Fair enough. I say, for the most part, we're in the position where land was good, spell was good. Put another Snapcaster Mage in the bin. If they have a removal spell, they have a removal spell. I'm not going to sit here all day and wait to find out, though. Because they had a Thoughtseize on the stack, I'd rather get their Snapcaster Mage off the board than keep a Maelstrom Pulse. Because then we're probably going to have to use that Maelstrom Pulse to kill their Snapcaster Mage anyway, so I'd rather just take the guaranteed 2-for-1. No idea what this is. Some type of Delphani? Yep, Nissa. Interesting. Oh, little buggers drew a Fatal Push. Well, that might win them the game then. See what our dear friend Bloodbraid Elf has to say about this. We see a bold here, the game's just over. Be interesting to see if our opponent has another basic. Quite a few basics in their deck. Yeah, so it seems. Opponent's thinking real hard. Thinking what kill spell they wanted to use, I guess. You have an Assassin's Trophy in your graveyard. Why aren't you using it? So you're risking death to a Okay, so their play paid off. And at this point, Janshevik, a land doesn't really matter, my friend. At this point, a land doesn't really matter to us. Like, Jund has a finite number of things it can do with... That's a very aggressive attack. Yeah, I guess it would have been a free 2 damage, you're right. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about the other half of the equation. Put 2 cards on top. Scavenging Ooze is kind of ugly here. Oh. Don't really have a whole lot for the mid-range matchups in the sideboard. Guess we probably want some number of bombs and cages. Probably not. I mean, they are technically a 2-for-1, but they get blanked by most of our opponent's creatures. Cards do we not want? If we draw a second land, this hand's pretty good. Keep it and hope. Snapcaster Mage. And we bricked on the land, so we probably die. Considering it's their biggest value card in this matchup, I'd say bringing in a one of, yeah, it's fine. Like, I'm not bringing in multiple answers to Snapcaster Mages, like I'm not bringing in surgical extractions or nonsense like that, but I think bringing in a one of Cage is fine, and bringing in the extra Nihil Spell Bomb is just kind of some amount of value. Opponent takes Liliana even though they have Negate. I find that interesting. Well, this deck's kind of all over the place. We saw Ooze out of them, we saw Tarmogoyf, we saw Confidant, we saw Snapcaster Mage. Very interesting concept. I don't like it, but very interesting. Okay, Creeping Tar Pit beatdowns. Not risking the second Dark Confidant right now. So literally the only card we know in our opponent's hand is Negate. That's a little rough. That's a lot better. Well, arguably our best card. Our opponent probably wanted to leave up Creeping Tar Pit as a blocker here. Now this forces them to choose to negate the Inquisition. So we get to get in with some amount of damage here. I'm not a huge fan of Dark Confidant, I'm not gonna lie. Snapcaster Mage here. Yep. Probably should have seen that coming, but, you know. We're probably getting to a low enough life total we don't want, oh, they're going to leave Confidant on the board and try to race us with Tar Pit. Not really a huge fan of drawing another... Double Snapcaster Mage. Interesting. I don't know, Jan. Is this Grafdigger's Cage good this game? I'm just wondering, Jan. Do you think this Grafdigger's Cage was good this game? Opponent's got a very interesting mix of cards. Yeah, I suppose that's one way of looking at it, right? That's the game plan. Yeah, I probably should have, given the fact they could. If they had Fatal Push, it'll matter. Fatal Push or Assassin's Trophy, this was a mess up. Tarmogoyf is definitely a card. Actually, I should probably just let the Dark Confidant flip happen. Okay. Bloodbraid Elf. Sometimes it pays to be lucky as well. Don't think we want the surgicals. Brutality might have some amount of targets, but it doesn't really kill any of their creatures. I mean, we could try to color screw them, but we know they have enough basics in their deck. I think it's just battle cruiser magic and hope we come out on top. I mean, we don't have anything to interact with their, with any disruption they might have, but I think this hand's fine. Let's try to save as much damage as possible, given that we have these, Dark Confidants. Hopefully we draw a removal spell here. They very well might, but their Snapcaster still might get some amount of value here. This looks like a Liliana, maybe? Nope. Why would you Maelstrom Pulse your own Confidant? Okay, sure. Those games where you quietly wonder if your opponent's insane. Yep, they pulsed. You have a land to go with your tracker? Of course you do. Now we have an interesting choice here. We can Bloodbraid and hope to hit a removal spell here. Or we could just play the safer play of Confidant and Fatal Push. I think we just Confidant and Fatal Push. Opponent's already shown us they don't have a lot of removal spells in their hand, so yeah, Karmoglyph, that's okay-ish. Liliana here would kind of suck. Yeah, Liliana, the last hope, even more annoying. Target player discards a card. Huh. What is the right mode on this? Do we go after Liliana to kill her here? Do we... Huh. I think it's target player discards a card, get back Dark Confidant. Probably should just kill Liliana of the Veil, or Liliana of the Last Hope here. I'll probably kill that. Their Liliana bites it. It's really hoping for like a Fatal Push or a Assassin's Trophy there. Opponent should probably be able to race us here. I mean, Bloodbraid Elf could potentially kill them off the top, but we only have 2 left in our deck. Yeah, so much for racing. As long as our opponent plays this right, we're probably dead here. Yep, now we're dead. Opponent missed lethal, but we can't punish them, so... Opponent should have fired up their, whatchamacallit, and gone in for lethal. Play one more match with Jund here. Sure, keep this hand. Seems pretty reasonable. Scavenging Ooze is one of the weaker cards to try to run away with the game, but let's see. Bolt. Bolt. Yep, blue-red wizards, it looks like. More aggressive version of it with with opponent Drew Delver. Alright. Maybe. We're not exactly playing the most efficient version of Jund for Legacy. Need some Grove of the Burn Willows and some Punishing Fires if we're doing that. Not really. Yeah. Serves their purposes, they know what they're playing around now. Nope, he's just playing an aggressive version of, whatchamacallit over there. We'll run the one ooze out into a bolt. The rest of it is just kind of whatever. Yep. They don't know we have the second scavenging ooze, do they? Alright. Because I want to save the extra food for the other scavenging ooze. Because I want to set up a point where we can get away from, especially since they're firing off bolts like they're going out of style. Bedlam Reveler, yeah, that's a problem. Their deck is a weird mix of stuff. Drawn a bolt, have you? We keep drawing lands like a champ. Yet another reason why I hate the card Dark Confidant. Maybe. Do you realize how many bolts they've already used? They've already used all 4 copies of Lightning Bolt. So unless they have some Snapcasters floating around, they may not have any bolts left in their deck. Opponent's deck's got a lot of velocity, but a lot of air, too. I mean, that said, we could still die to a combination of Dark Confidant flips and bolts, so... I mean... shouldn't get too cocky. Yeah, I guess attacking would have been technically correct. Probably want Finks's other Nihil Spellbomb can't hurt. Probably want Kalitas, Anger of the Gods. Probably Collective Brutality. Maybe Fatal Push. Probably can cut some amount of Dark Confidants. Maybe all of them. Cut like a Pulse. And... I think we got a mulligan this one. We can't really keep a one-lander. Can we? No, not when our hand's mono 3 drops. This hand's a little bit better. I was gonna say, it's gonna be really bad if they have turn 1 Delver. This is just annoying enough for them. It might get like a Spell Pierce or a Mana Leak out of them. Yep. Because it threatens to shut off their Bedlam Revelers. And if they're running Snapcaster Mages. Yep. Hopefully they don't have Spell Pierce here. Alright, so we get to kill the Storm Chaser Mage here. So the two plays we can make is we could make Tarmogoyf plus Fatal Push, or we can mow Liliana tick down. I think this is the only spot where we're guaranteed to get value out of Liliana here. Because they could obviously bolt it, they could have another Storm Chaser Mage. So, let's just do this while they have their Negates and Spell Pierces down. Yep, get the Swift Spear. Wow, they are a very aggressive version of red. We haven't seen half this crap out of them game 1. Start by casting Inquisition. Hopefully they're not holding a hand of like Bedlam Revelers and nonsense. Forked Bolt and a land. playing around Blood Moon to a limited degree if we can here. Go my 6/7 Tarmogoyf that their deck probably can't kill. And that is Jun doing Jun things. So, overall, pretty pleased with our 3 games with Jund. Yes, we had a 6/7 Tarmogoyf in play, and they had a land in hand before that draw step. So yeah, they resigned. The Blue-Red Wizards deck is not exactly known for its ability to, yeah, those combination of cards were beating them. But the Blue-Red Wizards deck is not exactly known for its ability to handle a, maybe, if they're even running it. Chances are, if you resign there, you don't have an answer to it in your deck. So, anywho, we went 2-1. We beat Burn. We beat Blue-Red Aggro Wizards, I guess. And then we lost to Sultai Good Stuff, which is another deck trying to do a lot of the same things Jun's does, only it has Snapcaster Mages. I mean, I wasn't quite sure what our opponent was up to. Like, they had Confidant, Snapcaster Mage, Scavenging Ooze, Tarmogoyf, and Tireless Tracker. Were they playing the Reed Duke list? That might have made sense. They might have been on, like, the Reed Duke list. With more Snapcaster Mages. Because Reed was playing a Sultai-esque list that did alright. Well, that said, I'm gonna wrap it up with Jund here. Take a couple minute break, switch over to finishing that Burn League that I started. So that'll be that for now, but wanted to get some reps in with Jund. Probably sometime today or tomorrow I gotta get some reps in with like Valakut and Dredge, you know, decks that are popping up again. That's been a little while since I've played, just to get a feel for how strong they are in the format right now. But Jund's still a solid deck. You know, I've never been a huge fan of these mid-range shells in Modern. I don't tend to do great with them. You really have to have your deck tuned week in and week out to know what you want to beat. I think Jadine did a pretty good job of balancing things out, but like I said, I'm no Jund aficionado like Jadine or Reed Duke, so, I mean, my only thing is I don't like the card Dark Confidant. Call that a Jeff Hoogland bias. I prefer Tireless Tracker in that slot. Yeah, it does up the curve a little bit, but you're also a little less vulnerable to taking damage from your card advantage. So, I mean, 3 Bloodbraid Elf might be correct. Not sure on that number. Beyond that, I mean, I like the one of Nihil Spellbomb in the main deck. Gives you a cantrip and gives you a little bit of graveyard interaction in the main deck. Allows you to like have 5 sources of graveyard interaction against things like Dredge and such, which were obviously a problem going into last weekend. Kalidas is a one of I think I'm a big fan of. The rest of the sideboard's fine. I think my preferred build of Jund was the one that O'Doyle was screwing around with a little bit. That he had like Emrakul the Promised End in it, but I think like some small amount of Faithless Looting to kind of tie together these like wrong half draws. I know we don't get as much advantage out of it with playing Faithless Looting as a lot of the good Faithless Looting decks, but I think like a 2 or 3 Faithless Lootings, like, you know, the Death Shadow decks, or that in combination with like Scavenging Ooze, Tarmogoyf, Tireless Tracker, Bloodbraid Elf. I'll have to dig that list up. It's been a while since I've played Faithless Looting Jund, But I'll have to probably dig that list up and update it and see how it does. But other than that, this has been Dust for Dust on Gaming, playing some stock tier 1, tier 1.5 Jun from Jadine and Klomparens. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you like what you're seeing, please give us that thumbs up. And if you have any specific play patterns or anything you notice that I may have messed up, or, help me out a little bit, feel free to leave it in the comments. This has been Dusk for Dust on Gaming.